The outcome of who our children are now and in the future is not in our control. We have zero control of the outcome. And that doesn't take away from the fact that we have hopes and dreams and desires, and that we implement things into our parenting and our life to form them, and then let go of the outcome.
Hi, I'm Chana from Day in My Jewish Life. I grew up as the youngest of 8, surrounded by larger-than-life personalities, and in all of the noise, I often held my own voice back. But being the youngest also gave me a gift, the ability to listen and to take it all in. That shaped me into the person that I have become. Eventually, I was given the privilege of opening up my own Instagram platform, a space that pushed me to share my voice. I cannot even begin to tell you the countless ways that changed me as a person. And that's why I created this podcast, Day in My Jewish Life Unplugged. Here, we amplify voices that don't always get a mic. You're going to hear stories that are real, unpolished, and full of beautiful meaning. And my hope is that by listening, you're going to discover something that speaks to your journey. So join me here, where voices are heard, stories are honored, and every conversation has the power to leave you changed. In this episode, I'm speaking with Yocheved Shapiro, who is a mom of 3 neurodivergent boys and 1 neurotypical girl. She takes us through those early years of being a new mom, getting the diagnosis. Yocheved had a master's in educational psychology and child development, so she knew the signs early on. This conversation is a beautiful balance of vulnerability, openness, and also such powerful insight and wisdom. She speaks about her journey toward accepting the life that God gave her, using every skill she has within her to show up for her children. She's made it her life's mission to be there for parents and educators, to fully show up in their role as educators. I'm wowed by Yocheved. She's an incredible powerhouse of a woman. She has so much to share. I'm so excited for this episode to come out. I'm going to link her information in the show notes because I know she can be beneficial to so many people. She's an incredible, educated resource. I'm honored to have had her on this platform. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
And I'm so happy to have you. And I want to start with a little introduction. Just introduce yourself, your background. You know, we are our background.
Yeah.
We are where we come from.
100%. So my name is Yocheved Shapiro. Very briefly, I grew up on Shlochus in Southern California. My parents were in Chinuch Shlochus my whole life in Long Beach, California. So very steeped in the world of education and Shlochus and all of that from the get-go, from day one. And then that evolved. I grew up. When I was in seminary, my parents moved from Long Beach to Las Vegas, where my father was the principal of the school, the Chabad school in Las Vegas, for about 20 years. He's since retired and lives here in Florida. But so I was just very chinuch was there was never a time in my life where chinuch.
What is chinuch for people who don't know?
Education. Educating children, educating Jewish children specifically, just really ingrained in me from day one. And I innately always knew that that's what I would be involved in my life. So I grew up. I went the regular, typical high school seminary route. And then I started college in New York. I didn't get married till I was 25. So I was living in New York. I went to Turo. I did my degree in Turo. I started my graduate degree, and then I got married.
Middle.
I got married soon after I had started my graduate degree. I was doing my master's in educational psychology and early child development. I have those degrees. Got married. It took another couple of years before I had my first son. So I was steeped in my career and my own personal education before I became a parent. Kind of all happening, finishing my degree around the time my first son was born. So that's where I was. And then my first son was born when we were still living in New York.
Can I pause you for a second?
For sure.
There? Wow, first of all, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Schooling is hard, and getting those degrees are hard, and we need them in this world.
100%.
a personal thank you.
Yeah.
I love education as well.
I think one thing I always say about education, like my own personal education, like getting my degrees, being a good educator is something that's innate and personal. You can't teach someone to be a good educator, and good educators are better when they're educated themselves, right? So my own personal growth, like knowledge is empowering for me, right? So having access to knowledge, learning new things, learning theories, having mentors in the field of education made me better at my field.
That you were naturally good at.
But yes, so I think it's both. I think that it's something that I'm very passionate about, right? You can't send a poor educator to college and they become a good educator, but someone who is innately a good educator, and every person has to go on their own journey. I'm not advocating for yes college or no college. That's not really my point, but like professional development, good professional development and knowledge and resources and educating yourself in the field just makes you better and better at your field.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I totally agree with you. You have to have that foundational, like, it's almost a personality and a character and, like,
100%.
your life's mission. It'll be,
Yeah.
it'll come out if it's you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Can I ask you, like, in those, you just got married, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
at 25, you
I
said?
got married at 25 and my first son was born when I was 28. So that's a whole other
Wow.
journey. Yeah.
So having just gotten married with your degree, you're fresh and bright, new.
Yes.
I mean, I was gonna say hasn't been burned by life yet, but
Yeah.
the truth is I don't know that. What was your hope and visions for your future? Like, where did you see yourself? What did you see yourself doing? Family,
Yeah.
career?
So it's so interesting. I love that you asked me that because prior to meeting my husband, I would have said shluchas. Like, I was passionate about shluchas. I grew up in a very open home where we always had a lot of people. Like I said, my parents were shluchim. They were educators, like Shabbos meals, big Shabbos meals, and I envisioned that. That's very not my husband. He works in the IT industry. He's
An intellectual.
He's an intellectual and a little bit of
Introvert.
an introvert, and yes, and
So
he's
funny.
incredible. And Hashem puts you where you want to be, where you need to be, even if it's not what you know that or you think you know. So I think that took some adjusting to figuring out like where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be within the context of what I thought I wanted prior to meeting my husband wasn't going to be my reality. So I think that evolved to knowing very strongly that I wanted to be in chinuch and that I wanted to take it beyond teaching. I don't know that I knew exactly what that meant. I knew I wanted to be in the classroom in the beginning, and I knew I wanted it to evolve into something bigger. And I'm hesitant to use the word bigger because teaching is like teachers are heroes, and I don't want to downplay what teachers do every day, but evolve into something more administrative, more in the role of forming schools, forming what education looks like. I knew that even then. I don't think I knew exactly what it would look like. And that leads me straight into parenting because my parenting and my career are like extremely enmeshed.
We'll definitely get to that.
Yeah. So so I knew that. So I was teaching, I started off teaching in Chabad house schools, and that was important to me. When my first son was about a year and a half, we moved from Crown Heights to Vegas, and I became the assistant director of the early childhood center. So I was like pretty right away in an admin role, which I loved and fit like my life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what you envisioned pretty much happened.
Yeah. Yeah. In a different way. Like, yeah. But yes.
A lot of people don't know what they want to be when they grow up, especially in our Hasidic communities where we get married so young. I know for myself, for sure, like, I would tell my husband, like, I don't know what I want to be when I'm big. Mm-hmm. And that's a blessing that you knew that.
It's interesting because I actually fought it the other way. I wanted to make sure I wasn't falling into being like a preschool teacher or a teacher because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had to work through that. Like, no, this is who I am and this is what I want. And it's okay that it's done in our culture. It doesn't I don't have to
So sad that that's a stereotype.
I know. It is sad. And I literally had to reassure myself that this is who I am and this is what I want. And I'm not just falling into what's available to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So you had your first son after 3 years, if I did the math correctly.
Yes. My son Ari was born literally a week before my 3rd anniversary.
And have I ever met Ari?
I know he's been to your house for a ring or two. He's away for yeshiva now.
Not when I was here.
But he's that age, like he's Masifta age. He's 15. He knows your husband. I don't know if you've met him.
Okay.
He's incredible.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about those early years? So you finally you waited 3 years for a child, which in our communities, that's significant.
Yeah.
And you got your first baby boy. You got a son.
Yes.
I'm sure those days were like amazing, especially after waiting.
Yes. Amazing. Incredible. And also knew that something was going on neurologically, developmentally, cognitively with Ari from a very young age. Very, very young. So just a little bit about Ari's like infancy. We dealt with all the like colic and reflux and all of that, but it was like more than that. He only slept in motion.
Wow.
He was very, very sensory sensitive. We dealing with like food issues from the time I was ready to start solids. So there was stuff going on with Ari from a really, really young age.
It sounds like everything that could possibly be hard was hard.
Yeah,
Colic,
they were
sleep.
It was hard. It was really, really, really hard. Ari was a really, really challenging infant. I remember my sister, I was living in New York, then my sister lives here in Florida, and she had 3 kids, and I was having my first. And I remember visiting her a few times. And my sister is amazing and supportive and also very like blunt and straightforward, and like that's who she is.
You guys have that in common.
Yeah, she's
straight.
She's like, I don't know, tougher than me, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And she would just be like, Yocheved, what's going on with Ari? What are we doing about this? Like, and like, but in a way that like, no, I needed to hear. Like, she's my sister and I love her, and she was supportive. But I think, so a very interesting thing that happens, this is a little further, like, okay, the first time, besides for just being hard, right, that I was like, wait, what's going on here, was Ari strung a few words together at like 8.5 months old. And I know very specifically because he was born in January, and it was Yom Kippur after his birth. So we're talking about like 8.5 months after his birth. And
can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
Because I'm nervous that it's not recording.
Yes.
I think it is, but you know you have that
100%.
basic thought. Or Hashem.
Okay.
Basically,
Done.
pick up exactly where you left
Yeah.
off.
Okay. So yeah. So I spent Yom Kippur sleeping at my aunt's house because there was just people. I didn't want to be alone in my apartment with a baby, right? And my husband
Why
was
not?
a shul. Yeah, no, with a hard baby.
Right.
And at some point, my aunt said to me, like, leave him with me. Go to shul. Go take a nap. Like, I got him, right? Which is lovely of my aunt. And I handed my baby to my aunt, and he like said to me, like, goodbye, mommy.
No.
And she just looked at me and she was like, what just happened here? He's like a tiny baby, right? So like everyone was like, that's amazing. And I'm like, this is terrifying. Like I had enough education and understanding of early childhood development and brain development. That was my field.
I've just never heard of that before. What does early speech point
So
to?
Ari's diagnosis, I mean, we'll go there, but he has a diagnosis called twice exceptionally gifted, which sounds wonderful. Every time you put the word gifted, everyone thinks, wow, but it's a diagnosis like any other neurodivergent challenging diagnosis. What twice exceptionally gifted means is an extremely high IQ with other stuff happening in the brain at the same time. So whether it's ADHD or other, neurodivergent stuff. So what happens with the brain with kids who are twice exceptionally gifted is you have extreme intelligence, and then you also have these things leading to other changes. So like with Ari, it's something called hyperfixation. So his brain fixates on language in a way that's really unique and different. It's still true to this day.
Wow.
So his like vocabulary has always been incredibly exceptional, and then we saw that in infancy. Really, I will say he didn't go straight from there to like talking full sentences. It wasn't like a typical development. He would say the same couple of words strung together over and over and other things. But the bottom line is he had some like very, very clear indications from a very, very young age that just it wasn't typical development, that we
Were
weren't
you nervous?
Yeah, I was terrified.
What was if you could look back into your brain back then, what were the thoughts? What were your sentences to yourself? What was scary?
my scariness was very big picture. At that time, when it was just Ari, I was very afraid of what life would look like. Like, am I going to be able to work? Is he going to be able to go to regular schools? Is he going to grow up and be a regular person? I was like forever going 10, 15, 20 steps ahead, right? I couldn't stay in the moment then. I couldn't just be like, okay, what's happening right now? What do we have to deal with right now? Which is like a huge message of mine, because it took a lot of work and evolution and for me to get to a place where that's where I am now with my children, with my career. Like, but then, and it's unhelpful. It's spiraling. Like, I spiraled a lot. I had a lot of anxiety over like the big picture, and I had a very hard time just being like, what does my child need today? How can I best support his needs today? I couldn't do that then. And that was, for me, that was the biggest challenge.
Wow. Can I ask you something possibly a little invasive?
Sure.
The reason for my question is because I'm thinking of young moms who just had a new baby and are noticing these differences, and for them to know that everything is normal in your process of figuring things out and the newness of it, the fear, the anxiety. In your process, was there ever a point where you found it difficult to, I don't want to use the word love, but connect and, intimately connect? And I'll use the word love to throw it out there. But
yeah, no, I don't think love is the right word. I think I always felt a lot of love towards him. Although I would understand, like, a parent who was having a hard time connecting with that. I'm going to preface this by saying, like, a big bracha and a big gift from Hashem is that, like, mental health-wise for me was never a big challenge. So I wasn't dealing with like postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression or anything of that, which is like humongous. And for parents, for mothers who are, and then on top of it, their baby's challenging. Like, I can't even begin to imagine, right, how you drown in that. That being said, definitely an excessive amount of frustration and angst, and yes, like a lot of negative emotions connect with love also. Like, I wouldn't say that I never didn't feel love, but I certainly felt like...
Love is the wrong word.
Yeah, I think how I felt, if I had to say it, would be like, is this really what Hashem wanted? Like, I went through all this, like, I didn't get married till I was 25, and then it took me 3 years to have a baby, and this is not a fertility podcast, but that's this whole other journey, and I'm like, and I worked so hard to get to this challenging, like, this is what I worked for. Like, I think that's how I felt. Like, why, Hashem? Like, why did you put me through all those challenges? And here I am. I'm in a good marriage with a husband who we have a good relationship, and I had a baby. We figured that out. We overcame the shidduchim and the fertility for this. Like, goodness. That's how I felt. I don't know how directly I connected that with Ari, but I definitely felt that a lot in those beginning days. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so valid.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like my message, like, to mothers is like you said, every single thing is valid and normal. Like, if you're feeling it, it's valid to be feeling it. Never, ever say like, why am I feeling this? Or is it not okay for me to be feeling this? You are feeling it. So now what, right? Yeah. Like, what are we doing with that? Mm-hmm. And how are we working through it? And does it need to be worked through? Or do we just own it and sit with it?
Wow.
Right? And the second thing I want to say is that, okay, I might say a lot of things while we're talking that sound like, oh, it's just like easy, just do this. And every single thing I'm saying, I know the work that goes into what I'm suggesting. I don't want it to come across as blasé. That being said, I think like you doing that work for yourself ultimately is worth the time and the energy and the effort for the outcomes that you're looking for in the long run, right? Like, it feels overwhelming in that time to be able to like focus inwardly and be able to focus on healing yourself and dealing with your own emotions. And right, you're like, but I have this chaotic baby, right? Like, how do you want me to do that? And ultimately you have to, like, that has to come from inside. You have to put in the energy and the work and putting yourself in the right place, in the right perspective, in the right situation. And then you'll have the capacity to manage whatever's in front of you.
Oh, that's such a hard, you're thrust into it, and you're saying like you're going to come to a place eventually where you're going to realize that there is no other choice. You have to go through it.
Yeah. And I think the bracha for me was, at some point, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when, but recognizing that, right? Like recognizing like, okay, like here we are, right? Mm-hmm. Now what? Like Hashem put me here. Like I went from like, why did Hashem put me here? Why am I here? Why did I go through all of those hard things to come to another hard landing? And I went from that to here I am.
Wow.
Right? Here I am. Hineni, right? You know, it's like, I'm here. What am I doing with that? And again, I'm going to reiterate that it was not easy for me to get there. It wasn't just like I woke up one morning there, right? No. But I do think that it really, really, being able to be there has benefited my life and my children tremendously.
Was it hard for you to be around your friends' children, let's say, or your cousins or aunts' children who were neurotypical with your son?
So not at that point. Not at that point. I think like it was still easy enough to just be like, he's a baby and kind of keep it like internal. I don't know how much outside people saw. As he grew up into toddlerhood, and I think we could take it there. So a couple of things happened. The first thing that happened is that we moved to Las Vegas. I became part of the administration team on the school that Ari went to, which had its pros and cons.
I'm sure.
But Ari became very aggressive. Like as a toddler, he was very, very aggressive. So that part of it became much more challenging when I was like trying to balance my role as like in a small community. I'm like an educator and I'm in charge of like this one small from preschool in a community, right?
I can't imagine.
My kid is the aggressive one. He's the biter. He's the pulling hair. He's hard to be around.
Wait, I'm saying I can't imagine, but just so you know, my first biter, hitter, all that stuff, okay? Yeah. I'm not saying I can't imagine going through that, but I can't imagine being in that admin position in a small community.
Yeah,
it passes, by the way, usually.
It passes. It passes. Yeah, we could talk about how to know, just in general, how to know when to intervene, because that's something I'm very passionate about, and we can get there. So that was a really, really challenging, like socially for me, and as Ari's mom, and like kind of like trying to like, at that point, I would say I parented out of like fear of judgment a lot, which is like, that's another thing that like I worked really, really hard. Like I need to parent my children for who they are and who I am and who we are as a family. And what the entire universe thinks or feels about that is so irrelevant to me now. At that point, I really felt like I just had to like prevent him from being chaotic.
Aggressive.
Yeah, and aggressive, so that nobody would judge how I'm parenting him because I'm the expert.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. And then when Ari was 2.5, my second son was born, my Mendel, who... Kanai Nahara was the easiest, most easygoing, delicious baby. Bracha from Hashem. I had a very easy pregnancy with him, and he was a very easy baby. That being said, when you said before about like how were you like feeling like in that moment, and I was talking about how like I was overwhelmed by the future. When my second son was born, that was immediately very switched. I remember saying to my mother at one point when Mendel was a baby, like, Mendel was born right after Shavuos, so like the beginning of the summer. And I'm like, my goal for the summer is to keep this baby alive. Like, that's it. If everyone's alive, if I put him in the crib and Ari didn't...
You're saying because of your second.
Yeah. God, yes, because of Ari. Sorry, yes. So like, if Mendel survives infancy, I did a good job, right? So
Were you able to laugh about it?
Yeah.
Or was it funny?
No, it was funny. I think it was so intense that it was funny. Mm-hmm. I laughed with my mother. I was like, that conversation I was having with my mother was funny. I was like, okay, we have one goal. If no laundry gets done, if no food gets made, if this house is a disaster, if I don't do a single thing professionally, I mean, I'm lucky it was the summer.
So
and
your fear just dissipated? Like, I guess within those years you worked on it because any normal human without having done some major job would be panicked at this point and fearful. And what if my second...
no. I was terrified. So,
But you also were able to laugh at the same time.
Yes. I think so both, but I was also doing a lot of inner work. Like my inner work started with like my professionals for myself and mashpiyim and therapists and all of that started when Ari was a baby. So like I was like, by the time Mendel was born 2.5 years later, I was like in.
How did you know to go for guidance
in that journey? So I come from a family that's always been very open to outside support. I don't think like I was ever, like things like therapy were never taboo in my family.
There we go.
Mom and Dad. So I...
Kudos.
Yeah.
No, that may have saved you.
100%. Oh, yeah. So I think, yeah, it was just like, okay, like that's what I need to be okay. And that was okay. I'm going to also, I think another thing that really saved me is like my experiences with shidduchim and fertility.
Shidduchim is the matchmaking process.
Yes, through dating and finding my husband and getting married, and my struggles with fertility for the first couple of years of my marriage also led me to that. I was at that point like very open with my friends and my community about what I was going through. Through those struggles, I think I developed an attitude of like, I don't need to gatekeep. There's resources out there. I have resources. Other people have resources.
There's no shame in it.
Yeah.
I'm not weak.
Yeah. And I want to be really careful because people are entitled to privacy, and every human has to like figure out what level of privacy works for them. But for me, openness worked for me. Like it brought more resources my way. It brought support my way. It brought other people who were going through the struggles through that. And if I would have been like shameful and quiet and not talking about the struggles I was going through, then everybody's not talking about what they're going through. And then those things don't become available to you.
I think every human being craves human connection,
Yeah.
especially when it's hard. But the issue is that we don't go to human connection because we're ashamed.
Correct.
And even those introverts need human connection
100%.
and support during those times.
And there's I say this to parents every single day. Every journey is unique, and there are thousands of people going through what you're going through. Both of those things are true.
Wow, that's such a good...
Right? Like
those two together.
Yeah. And it's really, really true. Your story is your story. Your story is not the same as anybody else's story. You're also not alone. And there's so many people experiencing similar struggles to you. And when we can connect with those people, it feels so much less lonely.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that, I think I developed those skills and that perspective before I was a parent. And it really, really helped me.
Interesting how God, paves the path for us when we're able to see.
Mm-hmm. I saw it then
clarity.
even. Yeah, I really did. So
Did Mendel survive infancy?
He did. He's 13 and
good.
adorable. Yeah. To take it a little bit bigger picture, so I have 4 kids. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and all 3 of my children, including Mendel, who was the easiest baby in the world, have diagnoses, have some sort of diagnosis.
All three out of 4.
Yeah, my daughter is what I would call neurotypical. If we need explanation on the words I could go to that. But briefly, what used to be a lot of different diagnoses in the world, including ADHD and a whole wide range of autism, Asperger's, a lot of other things, sensory processing disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, those all used to be independent diagnoses. ADHD is still a little bit separate, but all autism diagnosis and ADHD now fall under a category what we call neurodivergence. So neurodivergence is just the way your brain is wired. And that is what it is. So and there's basically, I'm saying it a little bit vaguely, but there's ADHD and there's ASD. ASD is autistic spectrum disorder. So everything except for ADHD falls into ASD, autistic spectrum disorder. So again, sensory processing disorder, all sorts of other things. And ADHD,
broad.
Yeah, very broad and a very wide spectrum. It's why we call it a spectrum, right?
Sure.
And ADHD is not ASD, it's not autism, but it is also neurodivergence. So I'm not going to get into my kids' specific diagnoses, but my 3 sons, Ari, Mendel, and Levi, all do have neurodivergent diagnoses, which means they've been through neuropsychological evaluations and educational psychological evaluations and all the whole path of figuring out what was going on in their brains and how it impacted them and how to best support them.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're all three very, very different than each other, which is also important. And I think a point to touch on here for parents, for mothers going through this, is that there is an extremely high genetic component to neurodivergence. It runs in families. That's a real thing. It's true. It's factual. And it's important to know because, like, if your husband's ADHD or your brothers are ADHD, and our husbands and our brothers weren't diagnosed to the level that our children are being diagnosed.
No way.
But so even if you think they are, when you see stuff going on with your kids, it's worthwhile to explore what's going on. And if you have one child with a diagnosis, it's worthwhile to be open to that your other children. And it is scary. And I also have this really, really strong driving force in me that, like, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And instead of being scared, I mean, it's scary is natural. So I'm not trying to say, like, don't be scared, because you're human and it's scary. However, if we can channel that into knowing that knowledge is power, and the more information we have, the better we could support the success of our children, that's like a very strong driving force for me. So when I started to see different symptoms in Mendel, much older than I had started to see in Ari. Mendel's
what age?
2, 3. So Mendel's first symptom was that he had selective mutism as like a toddler. So he was completely typically developing at home. But I remember 2 specific stories with Mendel, with his voice. Again, we lived in Vegas, very small town. Everybody knows everybody. You're friends with all the same kids. Go to the same school. The small town, right? Mm-hmm. Small town. And Mendel had this boy who was his best friend. And I remember when Mendel was 6, we were at a birthday party, and that boy's mother was like, Yocheved, I just heard Mendel's voice for the first time. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, that was really, like, profound for me, because it's hard to, like, put into, like, how quiet or just how selective in his speaking he was. So, I mean, I knew he had some selective mutism younger than that, but it was still, like, because he wasn't speaking at school. Mm-hmm. He didn't speak at school. So when Mendel started school at about, close to 3, I mean, he probably had some selective mutism younger than that. He started school younger than that, but it was kind of hard to, like, pick up on what was just toddlerhood, what's typically developing. It's always like a spectrum. It's always kind of like vague. Trying to gauge. Yeah. So, but then by the time he was 3 and he was really not speaking in school and really typically speaking at home, we knew that there was something a little bit deeper
for sure
going on with Mendel. So that's Mendel. And so I guess back to my point that I was trying to make is, like, it's natural and easy to fall into this, oh my God, here we go again. I can't believe this is happening to me. Shut the door. Did
you go back into that?
No.
No way.
No, I didn't. I think by the time I was ready for the diagnostic process with Mendel, I was at this place of, let's own this. Let's dig deep.
You're incredible.
Thank you. It's a lot of work, Hannah.
I don't. Through what? Like, what got you there? Because I can't imagine. You're only on your second child. You're not like a mother of 8, and then a mother of 5, and then number 6, is neurodivergent.
Yeah, I think what got me there was the recognition that I had the power to support my kids in a way that was productive, and that if I hid from that, I was doing them a disservice. I own that really strongly. I'm like, I owe it to them. I owe it to them. Here we are. Like, it's back to that. Here we are. Now what?
And your love for them is like burning.
No,
a mother's love for a child is, yeah.
I'm like completely obsessed with them. I mean, I told my husband once, like the other day, we were just talking about one of my kids. I'm like, am I ever going to not be obsessed? Like, they're not babies.
I just want to say, like, looking at your kids, you live in my community.
Yes.
Looking at your kids, like, they look like children who are obsessed over.
Thank you.
I can't explain it. Like, your Levi is the one I know best. Yeah. Like, he walks around with this, like, I am $1 million. Like,
so
confidence. He says whatever he wants to say. He rocks his world.
I'm gonna It's like my driving force is confidence. That's like, if I give my children one gift, it's the gift of confidence. And so that had to start with me acknowledging that, like, burying my head under my blanket and crying. I've cried plenty of tears. Like, please don't get me wrong. I've cried plenty of tears. And I've had moments of those, but they were moments, right? I've had moments of like overwhelm and I can't do this and I don't know what to do next, but that wasn't what was driving me. What was driving me by the time Mendel was going through his diagnosis was, what resources are out there to support him and how do I find them and how do I go about getting them? And so I think when I was like preparing for this a little bit, I really was thinking deeply on my walk last night about something. So we very often talk about how we can't control the outcome, right? Like in society, right? Like we can't control the outcome of our children, both from like a Judaism perspective. Like we can't control if they're going to be Orthodox, if they're going to be part of our world or part of our culture. And also just like their success, their personality, their like who they are. They are individuals, right? And we can't control the outcome. And I think what a lot of people lose in that message is that means we shouldn't have hopes and desires and things we want for our kids and put things in place to try to get there. Like we can hold both of those things true. My word, if anyone who knows me well, is balance. I'm like, the word that like drives my life is balance. And in this specific thing, that's the balance. Knowing that the outcome of who our children are now and in the future is not in our control. We have zero control of the outcome. And that doesn't take away from the fact that we have hopes and dreams and desires and that we implement things into our parenting and our life to form them.
Wow.
And then let go of the outcome.
Can I like have you apply it to something really practical?
Yes.
Like I'll put a scenario out there. Your 5-year-old, you're at the supermarket and your 5-year-old just starts ripping off the cereals and screaming because he didn't get something he wants.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to your toddler for, cherry on top and pushes him down. Like as a parent in that moment, like it's almost, I'm saying almost impossible to not spiral. Like where in that moment, how do you stop the fear of course your mind is going to go to the future, like
right.
your fear in the beginning?
Okay. Like tachlis, practically in that moment, and I've been in that moment, right? Like I've been there. I go home. I pick up my kids and I go home. You are not teaching your kid a lesson in that moment. Your child is dysregulated. Their brain is not on the wavelength to learn something.
I'm talking like mother's brain.
Yeah. So my
You're like, step one, go home.
Step one, we can't be here right now. We'll buy groceries later.
Yeah.
Prioritize getting my kids to a safe, healthier, calmer location. Go for a drive. I don't belong in the grocery store with my kids right now. They can't. There is nothing I need to buy urgently enough. I am leaving my cart right here and I am putting my children in the car.
Yeah.
And I am breathing. I am buckling them in car seats. I am blasting music. They could scream and I'm breathing, right? So like to me, that's step one. However, right, you don't leave it there. So you can't leave it there. So what I would tell a mother in that moment is your 5-year-old is big enough to learn a lesson about how to behave appropriately in a grocery store. So when you and him are calm and regulated, you're going to go to a grocery store and you're going to role play and you're going to teach that scenario. Maybe you do it without your 2-year-old there, maybe, right? But your job as a mother is to teach your child how to behave appropriately in a grocery store. That's part of your job as his mother. You're not going to A, punish him out of that behavior, or B, teach it to him when he's dysregulated. So when he's dysregulated and you're dysregulated, you just leave. You shut that door. We're not accomplishing anything from a state of dysregulation. Mm-hmm. And that goes bigger picture also, right? All your parenting, like when they're dysregulated and you're dysregulated, you pause, you survive, and you parent from regulation. You parent from a place of when you're regulated and they're regulated, right? So that looks like taking your 5-year-old back into the store, right? And just being like, setting up so another part of that, just from a also very, very practical perspective, is like when my kids were little, still to this day, but much more when they were little, I had systems for everything. So at one point, when Ari was probably 6 or 7-ish years old, we had a system where I would leave myself a voice note on my phone before we went into the store. And I would say, Ari, we're making an agreement. We're going into the store. We're going to be here for 23 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to get one treat. You could pick it at the beginning or at the end. You're not getting another one. And I would go through the expectations of how
So you would send a voice note
to myself, and I would have him standing next to me and say, do you understand and agree? And he would say, I understand and agree. And then when we got to the store and he wanted his second chocolate bar, I would be like, we have an agreement. You agreed. We signed a contract. This is legally binding. I would say things like that to him, right? No, sorry, you agreed.
Clarity.
Yeah,
Clarity.
everything. Expectations super broken down, super clear, systems in place. I mean, I try to avoid grocery stores with my kids, but it's real life.
When it didn't work out, how do you not spiral to fear of the future?
Okay.
Like, I understand the steps that need to be taken, like, noted, 100%.
Yeah.
But the inner work, like...
So I think that I worked on very hard on what is the next step. What do I have to do today? What am I doing today to support my child and my family, right? So what happens in the diagnosis process is that you get a lot of things thrown at you, a lot of language and a lot of words and a lot of therapies and a lot of options, and everybody has a different perspective. That's another super right.
Yeah.
Like this person swears by OT, and this person swears by Muscatova, and this person says if you don't get myofunctional therapy, you're never going to sleep again. And this and every expert comes from their perspective, right? So, okay, for me, I became the expert in what's next, and now I do that professionally, where I guide parents into figuring out. I don't expect every parent to have that, to be able to do what I did. It's also my career and my education. So for me, it was this, like I said, this merging of my career and my education. So I had access to a lot more resources and information than your typical parent. And professionally, that's really one of the things I am doing now and trying to spread, is that to be that resource for parents. So, and when I speak to parents every day, it's literally about what is next? What is the priority? And we go back to that grocery store example, which I love, because with really little kids, we're focusing on functionality, right? So we're focusing on your child's ability to function as an individual and your system as a family functionality, right? So we really work on pinpointing what is the most dysfunctional thing. So like example, with Ari, it was aggression, right? You can't have a kid who's really, really aggressive. I mean, like aggressive to the point where I was worried about the safety of my baby, right? So that's dysfunctional. So it became very clear to me that that's the first thing I'm tackling, right? I'm tackling the aggression. And again, so with Ari was through a lot of OT, it's very individual. And what I tell parents is, you have to seek help, and then you also have to trust the help you're seeking and not continue to seek a lot of help, because everybody has different perspectives and a lot of them are valid, but it gets really overwhelming for parents. They're like, who do I trust and who do I believe?
Imagine.
Yeah. Like, how do I know which path to take, right? So you have to seek help and you have to seek support, and then you have to trust it. And trusting doesn't mean it's foolproof. So a great example is Ari is an extremely picky eater. I feel like I'm focusing on Ari a lot. That's not my intention, but it's just
your
the fact.
first baby.
Yeah, very picky eater to this day. And when he was really little and I wanted to work on that, we did a lot of feeding therapy. And it didn't work. He's still as picky as he ever was, okay? And I don't look at that with any regret or anger or resentment, because I know that in that moment, at that period of time in my life, Ari being a better eater was my priority, and I did everything I could to fix it. And it didn't work, and that's okay. Hashem had a different plan. Hashem had a different path.
You're able to let go.
Yeah, you have to.
And appreciate what you put in.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And then you have to say, okay, so that didn't work. What's next?
You know what's interesting? When I thought to interview you, you always fascinated me.
Thank you.
What I thought was that we were going to discuss neurodivergent children and
We can.
but we are.
Yes.
We totally are. But what's fascinating to me is that I relate to it. I don't have a neurodivergent child.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of the people in my life that 1,000% relate to everything you're saying. And I know that parents with neurodivergent children, yourself, are dealing with the things that you're saying are on massive scales, way,
Right.
way, way bigger. But what's beautiful is that every single mother and father can take from this.
100%.
Because these lessons are applied in micro. And you know what? That's what connects us all.
Yeah.
We're different because our jobs as parents require very different things, but we can relate over so much of it at the same time.
Yeah. And I think, I think, first of all, it's true. I have a neurotypical daughter, and I parent her in the same way, and I parent her in a house full of crazy neurodivergent boys. And
how's she doing?
oh my God, she's incredible.
Adorable.
I'm obsessed. My challenge is making sure her needs are met. So one of the things is she's a twin. Ricky is a twin with a very high needs twin brother, right?
Levi is
her twin. Ricky and Levi are my youngest, and they're my twins. Another just notch in my story is that for Ari and Mendel, I had support to get pregnant. I got pregnant. Mendel was born when Ari was 2.5. That was planned. That was my goal. Mm-hmm. I spontaneously got pregnant with twins who were born when Mendel was 1.5 years. So I found out that they were twins when Mendel was a baby.
Wow.
And Ari was challenging. And it was very, very intense period of my life.
So Ari was how old?
Ari was 4 when they were born, and smack in the middle of the diagnosis process.
4, 1.5.
4, 1.5, and newborn twins. Yeah, I had 3 under 2 for 6 months. Now it's
I'm panicking.
It was hard. Now it's like my joy and the fact that they're so close in age. Like when people say like, oh, age differences, I'm like, my kids are all the same age. Okay, they're not. Ari's 15 and my twins are almost 12, but they're like extreme. Like I had 4 kids in 4 years, right?
Wow.
So like they're all like, we're going through this, and Ricky is a twin. Ricky and Levi are twins. And I really have to be conscious of meeting her needs. Like it's very easy for me to just be like, oh, she's fine. Like, oh, she's fine. She's great. She's a good student. She's kind. She has good friends. She's great. And then she melts down. I'm like, oh, wait, I've neglected parenting her because her brothers are so high needs.
My bad.
Yeah. And that's my work now.
How dare you let up for 1 second?
It's that my work now is, especially as she's entering preteen hormonal stuff, is being very intentional with my parenting of Ricky. I feel like I'm there right this minute. She deserves it. She doesn't need to get lost in the shuffle because she holds her own. So that's and I think a lot of parents of neurodivergent children could really, really relate to that. I speak to parents every day who are like, this child is so needy of me, of my time, of my energy, of my effort, and my other children, I'm just letting them be and raise themselves because they don't need that of me. And figuring out ways to be intentional about your parenting of your kids who are okay.
How do you do that?
Oh man, it's hard.
You're saying it's your work right now.
It's my work right now.
Fresh.
Hey, I'm also a little bit in a different stage of life because my kids are bigger and more independent and Baruch Hashem in really, really good places, which I want to get to how we got there. But, so it means things like inviting her on my daily walk, even if I would rather do that by myself. It means things like volunteering to do carpools for bas mitzvah groups, even though I'd rather not, because she gets to sit in the front next to me and we could talk while we drive to an event. It means things like signing her up for an art class that I don't know if I could afford because she wants, that's where she's at, right? If Levi gets to go to speech and OT and have all these other support services, Ricky's art class is her support service.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And financially, it's really easy to be like, okay, but Levi can't survive without speech and OT, but Ricky could survive without an art class. So, I'm going to put that on the back burner financially and also just time-wise, like the calendar, like when am I driving her?
And she's good.
And she's fine. And she's great.
Yeah.
Right? But she deserves that. She deserves to have those opportunities. That's where I'm at right now. When they were younger, my mother co-parented with me. I don't know.
Your mother, you said?
My mother, when we lived in Las Vegas, my mother lived very close by. Okay, shout out to my mom, who's incredible. My mother has the most incredible ability to be extremely involved in her children's life without being judgmental or offering unsolicited advice, ever. I don't know.
Wow.
She was in my house every day in those beginning years when I had 4 kids under 4 and dealing with neurodivergence. And she was literally in my house every day, and she never criticized me about screen times or cleanliness or sneeze or any, like, never, ever.
What a beautiful person.
I know.
I've never met her, but I'm blown away.
She's honestly the best. Yeah.
That's
Baruch
like,
Hashem.
the word I'm thinking of is like bittul. Like,
Literally bittul.
the sense of, how do I describe that word? Like, lack of, taking the I out of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here for you and your needs.
Yes, 100%. My husband says he won the mother-in-law lottery. Like it's like, so in those early years.
I might argue with you on that.
Okay, I'll let you. I know your mother-in-law through social media, so yes, there could be more than one really good mother-in-law.
True.
I have a good one too. Baruch Hashem, really supportive family, really across the board, really supportive family.
Huge.
Yeah, so that's huge. And I think that's okay. Like, knowing when you need help, knowing when you need to outsource, that's part of it. Like, you can't do everything.
Beyond okay.
Beyond okay.
Do you hear the situation you were in?
Yes, no, beyond okay. It's beyond okay.
Did you think then, I'm curious to know, in those moments were you like, I'm accepting so much help and
Yeah, no, you had to.
capable? I'm saying, did you think to yourself like,
Okay, I pride myself on a person who gets things done, who's capable of
You're a
handling
confidence
everything.
queen.
But
Confidence.
I had to be like, I can't handle everything. That was hard for me.
got it, okay.
That was hard for me. That was like, it's okay that you can't, it's more than okay. Like, it's okay to outsource this. I mean, cleaning help, I never struggled with that. Bring it on. But like other help, sure, that was challenging. Like, oh, I can't handle this. I can't work full time running a preschool and parent these 4 children and keep my house in shape. Oh, I'm human. Right. Like, that was really like.
That's funny. I have a sister. I'm so not like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, help me.
Yeah.
I'm a little baby.
Yeah.
But my oldest sister is like you,
Yeah.
made of iron. The things that she can handle, I can't even like fathom in my brain. And those people, that's their struggle. I mean, 2 things I think, like to sit down.
Yeah.
Like you're good when you're not plowing through things, and also accepting help.
Yeah.
Like,
both of those things still hard for me.
letting it in.
Yeah. Still very hard for me.
Ongoing challenge.
Yeah,
Comes with your incredible personality.
Thank you. I like recently, like, class mom for 2 of my kids' classes, and my husband's like,
that too?
why do you do this to yourself? And I'm like, he's like, they have other kids.
People.
Can't.
I feel like God created like powerhouses. It says about righteous people that like God created few righteous people and like planted them in the generation so they could be a light. So they could be like these powerhouses and people can cling on to them. I think he also created powerhouses of people who are like strong, resilient, go through crazy life challenges, plow through them, and then help other people, make it their life's mission.
I'm like so internally grateful that like my personal family is in a really good place. Not that my work is done. I'm not naive at all. Mm-hmm. And one thing I tell parents every day is like, growth is not linear. Like, I'm not expecting the roller coaster to never drop again. But right now we're like on an uphill, and that gives me the capacity
to that.
I know. Lots of work.
May it last very,
So
very
I
long.
want to, so like that gives me the capacity to like be able to support other parents who are going through this, right? Because I'm not in the weeds with my kids. But I was, and that doesn't mean I'm actively parenting them every day, but it's like, we could breathe. I think a really important topic to touch on that I'm very passionate about is schools and chinuch, education, and what type of schools my kids go to and how to.
Well, let's pick up where we left off.
Okay.
So you have a 2-year-old, your admin position in school.
Yeah. So in Vegas, my father was the principal of the school. My mother was the registrar, and I was like the early childhood assistant director.
And your kid was biting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my kid. I always say I'm just grateful he wasn't cursing. That was my bright side. No, so in Vegas, we started with like, okay, it was just kind of like, that's the school. That's where they're going to go to school. It wasn't a lot of thought. But it was like, what accommodations do they need? Because like they weren't just okay in school, right? They weren't just okay in school. So we went through a lot of years of a variety of things. And I think in terms of like homeschooling part-time, being at school part-time, one-on-one help, assortment of different types of therapy, tutors, all of the above, right? OT, PT, speech, we could go on, right? And what became, balance, we're going to use that word again.
Yeah.
The balance between dealing with today, what's in front of you today, and then also looking at a big picture. What do I want for my kids? Going back to that, we can't control the outcome, but what do I want for my kids? And I thought very consciously, lots of conversations with my husband and my mashpia and my therapist, right, about what's the big picture for my family, right? And I looked at it from two perspectives consciously, one from a Judaism perspective and one from just like a functioning in the universe human perspective. So from a Judaism perspective, I look at my Hasidishkeit, the fact that I'm a Chabad Chassid, that I am a Lubavitcher, that I am part of this community, as the best gift God has ever given me. And I would be a complete fool to not want to have my children inherit that gift, right? And ultimately what I want for them is to have fulfillment and a good relationship with God. And if they find that through a different path, that is fine, right? But to pretend that I don't want to impart this gift of this beauty of my relationship with God and my relationship with the Rebbe and what this community brings to me would be foolish, right? Like I want that for them because it's beautiful.
Of course.
And it enriches my life. So let's put that Judaism there. And then I started down this path of really, really researching deeply. I actually wrote a paper on it, on common traits of successful adults. What makes an adult a successful adult? What are common traits in successful adults? And without going through the whole list, the bottom line is really good communication skills, really good problem-solving skills, and something we call self-efficacy. Self-efficacy, we hear the word self-esteem a lot. Self-esteem is very fluffy. It's how do we feel about ourselves? It's not so important. Self-efficacy is directly connected to confidence. Self-efficacy is a knowledge and understanding of ourselves, of who we are as humans, of our strengths and our weaknesses, of what works and doesn't work for us, of what we need to fulfill ourselves. That's self-efficacy. And self-efficacy leads, self-esteem and confidence are very weakly correlated. What that means is that like very often people with very high self-esteem have very low confidence because it's fluffy. It's not concrete. It's not based always in reality. It feels good, but it's very temporary and it's very not substantive.
Interesting.
So you could have a very high self-esteem, but actually a very low confidence. And self-efficacy, understanding of self, often feels more negative because it also is an understanding of the negative qualities of self, but ultimately leads to more confidence.
Sounds like a realistic confidence.
It's a realistic
confidence based on real life.
Correct.
Like real.
It's not like, oh my God, you're the best and you're the most beautiful and you are, the world is like, you're incredible, right? We tell that to our kids all the time. I do also, right? Mm-hmm. And that builds self-esteem because it makes us feel like we're the best, right? Mm-hmm. But we're not always the best.
Well.
So what happens with people who hear that message a lot, then when they're not the best, when they get a bad grade on a test, or they're unkind to a friend, or they get in trouble for making a mess in their room, then they're like, wait, my whole worldview just fell apart.
Well.
You spent all this time telling me I'm the best, and here I am, and I'm not the best.
Their confidence is built on the fact that they were the best.
Correct. And then when real life happens, because they're not always the best, right, then their confidence dissipates. So self-efficacy is knowledge of self. So I went on a mission to primarily those three things, make those the focal point of raising my children. I, in my neurodivergent Kukariku household, am going to raise kids who are good communicators, have good problem-solving skills, and have a strong knowledge of self. Mm-hmm. So when you see Levi as being the most confident human in the world,
oh my gosh,
okay, my 11-year-old, I'm going to tell you a couple of Levi stories. So Levi has a speech impediment, and he says Rainbow. Like his initial R's are at, we're much better now. This was about a year and a half ago. So his initial R's weren't in yet, and he's 10. Like, he was not a baby. And he was in school, and he said rainbow about something. Maybe it wasn't rainbow. It was the initial R word. It doesn't matter. And another kid started to make fun of him, right? And Levi, Shapiro, at 10 years old, put his hand on that other kid's shoulder, looked him in the eye, and said, I have a speech impediment. We're working on it. Oh. And walked away. And
whoa. I'm sure the teacher fell off her
chair.
She
literally texted me immediately, right? And I was like, yeah, you have a speech impediment. It doesn't define who you are as a person. Nobody gets to bully you for that. Nobody gets to put you down for that.
And your speech impediment is there.
And it's there, and it exists, and that's okay. We're working on it.
Wow.
Right? And it doesn't mean we're not working on it. It just means it is. And so one of the main ways I did that is getting really honest with myself and with my children. So about what we're good at and what we're not good at, and how that doesn't define us as a person, and how we can still be good people when we play our strengths.
Well, this literally applies to everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Children,
100%.
spouses, friends, family.
Yeah. So the communication piece, just to touch briefly on each of those three things, the communication piece, I've always sort of naturally, I've never done baby talk, or I've never spoken to my kids. I'm very straight with my kids. I talk to my kids like I talk to you, right? I don't, there's no sugarcoating. I've always been like that with my kids naturally. And I just strengthened that and expected that back from them, to be able to advocate for themselves and communicate clearly and not be passive aggressive in their communication with myself. I just held them accountable for that and modeled it a lot. And that's a big piece of the puzzle. Their vocabularies are insane. And I'm let's just read all the books.
Amazing.
That's a very big deal for me. The problem solving skills one is a little more complicated. I don't have as direct way that I do it, but I do work on asking them deeper questions for when they come to me that they need help. This actually applies more when they were little, but if they need help with something, I'm always how can you do this? Is there something broke? Is there a way you can fix it? I don't know how. Well, let's think about how, right? Just trying to ask a lot of how questions and ask a lot of questions that require not
you got this.
Yeah. So that ties into both the confidence and the problem solving, but ultimately, if they need support, I'm there to support them. But wait, can you figure this out? Right? Can you figure this out? About learning things also, academic stuff. Also, even if they come home with a parsha, Dvar Torah, and it's shallow, which when they were little, that's what it is. So then we'll ask deeper questions to try to get them to think deeper about it. Levi, when Levi was about 4 years old, he woke me up in the middle of the night one night. Literally woke me up in the middle of the night, shaking me, and I'm woke up and I'm startled, right? And I'm what's up? Realize it's the middle of the night, that feeling? He woke me up to tell me that he realized that from the Torah portion of that week, it was about Yosef and his brothers, and that Dinah, who was Yosef's daughter, I don't even remember exactly, and another character in the Torah, Asnat, who was Yosef's wife, are cousins. No, Dinah was Yosef's sister, and Asnat was his wife. And Levi realized in the middle of the night that they're cousins. And he had a whole reason why he realized that they were cousins.
I didn't even know that.
And he needed to tell me. And I don't even know or care if his reasoning was correct, if it led him to the exact right place. It's almost irrelevant of that, we need to think about things, not take things at face value, to talk about them and think about them. So that's the critical thinking. And then the self-efficacy part, the confidence piece, is just it's really okay to not be good at everything. And we're really, really going to play up your strengths. So again, another practical life example is my Mendel, very different kid. Mendel is more very quiet, anxious, different kind of kid. He really struggles with math academically. He really, really struggles with math. And he's very artistic. He loves to draw, and he loves to write stories connected to his drawing. And
right brain, left brain.
Yeah. And that's my Mendel. And forever, everyone's you need to get him a math tutor. You need to get him a math tutor. You need to get him a math tutor. And I put him in a creative writing class. And I'm like,
go, girl.
I don't care. You're allowed to fail math. It's okay. I mean, fail. I don't accept fail, but C minuses are fine with me. It's okay. It's okay for you to not be good at math. I'm not fixing this. You're not broken. Whoa. I don't need to fix it. You have this beautiful talent for writing. We are going to hone in on it. You're going to be the best at that because it's your strength. And I would tell that to his teachers. I still do. I still am telling that to his teachers. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. He doesn't have to get A's in math. I don't accept failing. I want to be clear about that. Like F's wouldn't fly.
You have to try at some
capacity. You have to. And if he puts minimal effort, he's not failing, right? Like if he's failing, he's not putting any effort, and that doesn't work for me. But
was it hard for you to you put in all this crazy work as a parent, and then you ship them off to school?
Okay, so key message, like if I have one message, is that children are successful when parents and schools partner. Okay? Children are successful when parents and school partner. And I'm going to say something a little controversial, and it's okay. It is equally or more on the parents. I without getting too much into it, it's very easy to be very negative about schools, and I won't go there. I will never go there. That doesn't mean I have zero complaints. I'm going to be very clear about that. What that means is that ultimately my children being successful in life is my responsibility. I can't outsource that. Wow. And I want my children to be responsible in any and every environment. I don't want to have to put my children in an alternative environment for them to be successful. I want them to be able to be successful in whatever environment they choose to be in, ultimately. And what that means is that I have to make it my responsibility to put it on myself to provide them with those tools. So just very quickly, I made the active decision when we moved from Las Vegas that my kids were going to mainstream Chabad schools, that there's alternative options and there's options. And I was putting my very, very round children in the square peg of the school system, right? That was my choice. I chose that. Happily, gladly. I will never regret that choice. And that being said, I want to be very clear that parents have choices and not everybody has to make the same choice as me. And there's very valid reasons to make a different choice. Yeah. And I actually help parents try to figure out what the right choice for them is on an individual. Yeah. But for me and for my family and for our values and for what I want for them in their lives and for where they're holding, that was my decision. And that means that before I registered for the school, it was my job to figure out what support systems they would need to be successful in that environment. It was my job. And again, I'm not naive. I understand that I have access to more resources than other people because this is my profession. It doesn't change the fact that for every parent, those resources are out there. And I want to make it even more clear. If you're the parent of a neurodivergent child or a neurotypical child who's struggling for whatever reason in school, putting them in an alternative environment is not magic. It doesn't abdicate you from this responsibility, and it doesn't mean that it's going to all solve itself. That's not true. It doesn't happen, right? No matter what environment your child is in, they're going to need you to support them. You need to make it your business, your job, to figure out what your children need to be successful in the environment that you choose to put them in. And almost 100% of the time, what happens when you come to the schools with that attitude is that they're open to hearing what you have to say and working with you. Why are my neurodivergent children extremely successful in the square peg of the school system?
That's the burning question. How did you do that?
So I did that by understanding that schools are made up of humans with limited resources. There's nothing inherently evil about them. They're not bad. Sure, like in every industry in the world, there's better educators and worse educators, better schools and worse schools. Of course, that's universally true, right? It is not true that schools are the same as they used to be. It's not true. Schools have come so far, and we have to give them credit. And when we say things like the schools just don't want our kids and they just kick out kids who are not fitting the mold and they haven't learned anything, we're not giving credit to the work and the resources they have put in to not being the same schools I went to as a kid. They're not the same schools. And the educators, and I'm talking as a whole right now, but educators deserve our respect. They deserve our appreciation. That's step one. Understanding that if they can't support your child, it's not because they don't want to support your child. That it's not because they don't like your child. It's because they don't have the resources to support your child.
Maybe you're expecting a little
Of
too much.
course. We're always expecting, right? And I promise you, I say this to parents all the time, no educator, no educator in the history of education has ever opened their roster and said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick a number, today, Lana Chana Horowitz, today I'm going to ruin her day. Today I'm going to call her up and tell her that her kid is trouble and he can't be here and we can't support him and he's struggling. They don't want to do that. They're not making it up. The work that it takes for a teacher or a principal to get to the point where they're calling you that there's a concern is because there is a concern. And the concern is with your child. And that doesn't mean the school is perfect. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean the school is perfect. It doesn't mean. What it means is
they're human.
They're human. And I talk to educators too. And I talk to them about their side of the coin. And it's like literally the flip side of the same coin. And my message to educators is, and parents is both the same and opposite. And the same in that we are 100% in control of what we're in control in, and we are 0% in control of what we are not in control of. So if you have a child in your class as an educator who needs support and their parents are not giving them that support, you can't control that. But you can control your own emotional regulation, the systems you have in your classroom, how you respond to that child, etc., right? And then the flip side from parents.
Hard place to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very hard place to be in.
Oh, yeah. And I see it every day. Wow. And the flip side from parents is every school has better teachers and worse teachers. And if your kid lands in the class of the Rebbe who you don't like, who doesn't have as much class management as you can, and that impacts your kid, you can't control that. You do not have the power to fire that teacher. You do not have the power to move your kid's class. You may have the power to pull them out of the school, although generally it's not my recommendation. It's a Band-Aid, right? I mean, there are times when it makes sense to move kids from school to school.
What can they do, though? I don't even see a solution, to be perfectly honest with you.
There are solutions. The solution is that you give your kids the tools they need to be successful in every environment. And that looks different for different people, but it means you hold them accountable. If your kid needs support services, you get them the support services they need.
Within school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You partner with them. I have a parent who said to me the other day that their kid is struggling with reading, and they keep on telling the teacher, I need you to communicate with me so I know where they're holding. And she's like, and they're not, and that's frustrating, right? Okay. And my response is, I don't know who her kid's teacher is. I don't know, okay? But you have a teacher who teaches, let's say, 25 kids. And then they go home to their own family of 5 little kids. They're on overload. They're doing their best. They're humans with limited resources. And you're putting another overwhelming piece, like on top of this. I need you to communicate with me. I don't even know what that means. How about you say to the teacher, it's important to me that Chaim is catching up on his reading. I'm going to provide a tutor. Are you comfortable with me touching base with you every other Thursday to check in where he's holding?
Wow. Right. Like, why is it not your responsibility as his parent?
I'm like, can you try that? Can you try that? Mm-hmm. Right?
Whoa.
Because it is the responsibility of the parents. Ultimately, that kid is going to leave that classroom, leave that school, move on. But they're never going to stop being your kid.
Whoa. In parents in general, I feel like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of expectancy put on teachers, administration, and, just this like, what do you mean? I send my kid, I pay X amount of tuition, I send my kid to your school, and I expect everything to be taken care of.
Yeah. And can I tell you the hard balance? The hard balance is that oftentimes the parents who are more involved or try to be more involved come across as like the nudgy parents or the challenging parents or right.
Well, how could you be more involved in a way that's
right? So that's what well. I call effective advocacy. Every parent knows or feels like we have to advocate for our kids. We have to advocate for our kids. We have to advocate for our kids, and we do. I am like my children's chief advocate. I must advocate for my children all day, every day. I must advocate for my kids, right? But how am I effective in the advocacy so that the school feels like I take ownership, I'm partnering with them. I'm realistic about my expectations of them. I have an understanding of my kids having accountability for the behaviors. And then when I come to you and I need something, you're more willing. We've built this relationship where it's not in communication. There's a theory in communication called no blame resolution. No blame resolution is simply identifying a problem and working towards a solution without assigning blame. And that's the key. That is the key, right? How can we identify a problem and work towards resolution without assigning blame? And not assigning blame does not mean not holding humans accountable. We could hold people accountable. It just usually 99.9% of the time, the why things are happening are way more complex than it's not a good teacher. So just saying like, it's the teacher's fault that my kid is behaving this way is almost always not true and is always unproductive.
And it's always at the end of the day, ultimately the parent's responsibility.
Correct,
like this
correct.
is your child.
And I want to say something. I've seen like one of the things I do professionally is I help parents and schools with communication. Right?
So big.
I write emails back and forth. I've had a couple of cases where I've been paid by the school and the parent to write emails. I was transparent with them in the same situation.
That's hysterical.
But that happened twice. One of them was very short because I realized it wasn't healthy and I just dropped it. And the other one like was good and we worked to resolution. Yeah. But I see so much really, really, really poor communication on both sides of the street, and who ends up suffering is the child. But
yes,
right, and people are just really, really bad communicators. And what I tell educators is like, this is your job, but for the parent, it's their whole universe, right? Like, so you need to be really, really
sensitive,
careful in your communication with them. It's their whole world. Like, you're dealing with their universe. It's their child. It's their whole.
And that's maybe why they're so emotional.
Yeah, of course.
They're fearful.
Listen, I'm emotional too. Do you know that for one of my children, I wrote a behavior plan. I write behavior plans. I wrote the behavior plan, and then I paid a professional to go implement it in the school, because I know how much more. I know how to write behavior plans. I'm not paying somebody else to write one, right? But the school, like, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get emotional. They're gonna be like, "You're involved. It's your kid." Blah, blah, blah,
to know where your limits are at.
Exactly. So I paid someone else. I told them like the next year. They were laughing. I'm like, I wrote that plan when it was working well. I'm like, they were like, "Oh, that's funny."
They're like, "Okay, give me a little bit of credit."
Yeah. So I just like ultimately, and then what do we see? We see children who thrive. We see children who grow and thrive. I'm not done with my parenting journey. I'm not done. My oldest is 15. My youngest is almost 12. So I know that I have, time, space, more parenting to do. That being said, I'm going to use Ari as an example. I'm going to not cry. A couple months ago, my mother said to me, Tishrei time, Ari was home. He goes away to school. He's in school in Pennsylvania. And he was home for the holidays, and my parents were with us. And my mother said to me, like, wow, like, do you remember when we didn't know if Ari was going to be functional? Like, do you remember when we couldn't be in school full time? Do you remember when and I look at him at 15 and he's like the best human being. Like, I'm obsessed with him. He's thriving in school in a little bit of an alternative environment, but in the place that he needs to be. He is thriving. He just built a website. He learned the coding all by himself. School didn't, it was like extracurricular. School did not provide it. And then his choice of topic was like a timeline of Chabad history. So and it's beautiful and it's incredible. It's not live yet. He's waiting on some permissions from Gem to publish some pictures. He's like doing it all properly.
At 15.
At 15.
What a guy.
At 15. And he is kind and he is confident and he is social and he's loved and he loves people, and we have a good relationship with him and my husband. I mean, he's a teenager. We get in arguments. The other day I had to tell him, I'm hanging up the phone, and when you breathe and are regulated and you feel ready to call me back. Like, we have those conversations. He's 15 and I'm his mom. But in that conversation with my mom, she said, aren't you so proud? And I said, I'm more joyful than proud. Like, I have so much joy in watching him be who he is supposed to be in the most beautiful, real, true, good, productive way, it's so joyful. It's so joyful. And I think back, and like when I think back to how that happened, I think it's three things. It was like owning what was really going on, never trying to sugarcoat it, it's so hard. It's so like, wait, like this is scary. It can't be. Maybe it's because I didn't let him play with Play-Doh that he has a sensory aversion. No, Yocheved, he has a sensory diversion because he's neurodivergent, not because you didn't give him Play-Doh.
Don't own that.
Right? Like A, don't own it on me, and B, don't excuse it. Both, right? By the way, whole other topic that we don't have time for, but like not parenting through guilt. Like that's my first message to every mom. You do the best with the information you have at every moment in your parenting. That's it. That's all you could ask for yourself. And we all make mistakes. My people ask me my parenting philosophy, like, like gentle parent. I'm like, my parenting philosophy is safer therapy. I'm going to mess them up. They're going to have issues. So I'm going to be the mom who says, I'm going to support you through your therapy.
Love it.
Right? Because like they're going to have issues. So I'm going to pay for them to help get through them. Right? Like I'm not like, that's my parenting philosophy.
I'm not going to be perfect.
I'm not going to be perfect. I'm doing my best. And then I'm going to support them through their healing. That's how I feel it. So it's like, and all of them, like mental, like I mean, we haven't gone through the application process, but the plan for him is to go to like Masifta next year, to the regular mainstream, regular high school. And he was a kid who didn't talk. He's a kid who couldn't talk to people.
You never would have thought.
Yeah. And so back to the wrapping up, it's A, own it. B, don't stop fighting for it. Like, don't stop fighting for what they need to support them. Be open to everything and take it one step at a time. And it doesn't stop. It's okay. It's not like, don't be afraid of it. Just own it. Just own it, understand it, work to know it, and know that the support is out there and it's your job to find it. And it's a job. It's a job. Like when moms call me and they're like, oh, but this is a lot. I'm like, yes, it's going to be a lot for a lot of years. Like there's no sugarcoating that. Do you know how many hours and I say this, thousands of hours and thousands of dollars I spent on intervention services for my kids?
Oh my gosh.
Zero regrets. Because what do I have?
Your
I have
kids.
functional kids.
Oh, wow.
That's what I have. I have kids who have the tools they need to be successful in every environment.
Wow. You're so thought out and you're so like worked on and developed. It's such a pleasure speaking to you, really. It's
also not perfect. Like I don't want to walk away from this. Like I yelled at my kids, whatever. It doesn't matter when this week about something that, but the work is that when I'm there, then I'm recognized like, wait, I'm dysregulated. I'm going to the couch. Like I'll be back. Like,
or they know like, okay, that's mommy when she's off.
Yeah.
She was really angry and exploded. It's not the norm.
One time I opened the fridge and a Pyrex full of chicken and rice fell onto the floor and glass and rice was all over my floor. And I was like, whatever. And Mendel came over to me and put his hands on my shoulder and he said, take a deep breath. We could handle this. And then he got the broom and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how we live. We're going to take a deep breath and we could handle it. And
we could take a deep breath and we can handle it. Oh my goodness.
We can handle it all.
Coming from your neurodivergent child.
Yeah.
You did it.
We could take a deep breath and we could handle it. And we do. They handle it and I handle it. And not handling it is not an option.
Wow. I usually ask like closing questions and like you really just wrapped that up beautifully on your own. Like that's the message to mothers in the thick of it right there.
Yeah. And reach out. Like I'm here. I mean, I'm struggling a little bit like with, I want to just like answer every WhatsApp and help every parent. And I also have to put boundaries on for myself. Just I'm growing a business and also just like have to be there for my family. Like there are boundaries to what I could do, but I do want parents to know that
we're going to put your website in the show notes for
we're going to put my website and my contact information. And also I'm working on a WhatsApp for mothers. There's a few WhatsApp groups for mothers with neurodivergent children, but most of them are not guided. Like there's not really a professional on there. It's just the moms. Right. Which is great. I'm all for that. But I would like to have one that I moderate, you know what I'm saying? So that
So
it could be from a
important.
professional.
That might fill up real
Yeah.
quick.
So that's my next step. We'll put that out there
Incredible.
too.
Yocheved, thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome.
That was a pleasure to hear your wealth of knowledge, and I'm so excited to put it out into the world.
I feel like I could talk for like hours more about each of these things, but I think it's there. I think
You've been through it.
Yeah.
You've
I think we
been
got the
through
message
thick
across.
of it. Yes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.